What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Redefining Manliness podcast, episode 3.
Yeah.
We are super excited to be here yet again. You're still coming back to us, so we're going to hang in there. Today, we're talking about another one of the values for the manliness definition. Today, we're talking about wisdom.
Yeah.
So we're going to be diving into this pretty deep, and we've got a lot of areas to grow in this. So hang tight and stay tuned. All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us again, and we are excited to dive into wisdom today.
Week 3. We're still here, still rocking, still rolling. This will be fun. I'm excited. I'm excited that you guys are still tuning in. You guys are still watching, still listening. We've seen the numbers go up over the last couple of weeks, and it's great. So thanks for sharing, you guys. Thanks for being loyal these last 9 weeks now.
Yeah, we'll be talking about
6 weeks.
Loyalty coming up too.
That's right. That's good. A little plug for the upcoming episodes.
Great. Thank you guys for showing the love. We appreciate it. This has been fun for us. It's been a fun ride. And as long as you keep coming back, we'll keep making them. So we love it. We're having a blast.
Yeah, and as always, I mean, you guys know where to find us. We're at Redefining Manliness, whether it's on Instagram,
at Redefining
YouTube.
Manliness Podcast.
Oh, see, even I follow us. I know I swear I do. I'm involved in this too. At Redefining Manliness Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, podcast, Apple Podcast, Amazon, Spotify, all of that stuff. So make sure you guys are following it and sharing it with your friends. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Shout out to the sponsors. My business again, TMH Financial Coaching. If you guys need help with your finances, learning how to make a budget, make a plan to get out of debt or save just to take control of your finances, reach out to me. All my stuff's going to be tagged there, and we can get you some help with that. But
it would be a wise decision.
Good job.
Come on,
good
now.
Plug. I like that. So we're talking about wisdom today. Let's just go ahead and dive right into this. Let's define this.
All right, so I'll be honest with you guys before we even get started. This is one that I'm a little less excited about. If you guys tuned in to the last episode, I was hyped up about bravery. So I'm all, big and bad and bold and brave. Wisdom.
It's not quite what your wife thinks, but
no, she definitely laughed audibly.
Yeah,
and one would say harshly or sarcastically at the thought of me being brave, but that's just because she knows me when I'm not being brave as well. But no, when we're talking about wisdom, it's something that obviously Thomas mentioned, we're growing in, and I personally am growing with, as a young man. It's something that I'm growing in daily and learning in. So I'll be honest with you guys, we're speaking into this, and I'm sharing my experiences, and we're sharing our experiences. But this is definitely a topic that I'm like, maybe I'll let Thomas speak more of this.
Yeah,
he's got more age, and it's like fine wine. You just get wiser with age, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as the gray hair starts to come in,
you I definitely have more gray than you, though.
Speaking of that, I'm pretty sure in the first episode of this, if you go back and watch the video, it's pretty white.
Gray.
What happened there? Did you get less wise?
I just got younger. This podcast invigorated me, and I just lost 5 years. No, I mean, Just for Men is what happened.
There you go.
Hey, if you guys want to sponsor us, Just for Men. No, man. So I'm not like that's not true. I am somewhat of a vain person. I was going to say I'm not. I am. I'll be honest with you guys. Pride is something that I struggle with. I've struggled with it for a long time. It's probably a common stumbling stone for men. So it's something that I deal with, and I'm still dealing with now. But vanity is not really like a big thing for me. I've had gray hair since I was 16, and it doesn't bug me. I'm like, whatever. I've had gray hair. I'm losing some of my hair. Like, I spent 6 years in the Army, so it's bound to happen. But when I grew out my beard has a lot of white in it too, and it adds a lot of years to me. Like, you guys probably you wouldn't guess how old I really am. You probably think I'm older than Thomas, and I get that all the time. Like, people always guess my age, and they overshoot by 10 years, and I'm like, okay, that's gotta stop.
That's not gonna feel good when you're 60 and they're
I'm
pegging you for 80.
I'm hoping that I'm done, that at least I've reached this far, and I'll sit here till I'm 40 or something, and then it'll start up again. Yeah, that's right, I'm not 40 yet. And it'll start up again. But yeah, so we did the first episode, and I watched it, and I was like, dude, look at all that gray. It's like, nope. The hair can stay gray if it wants to, but the beard is gonna get some black in it. So yeah, I definitely dyed the beard, and so I might have lost some of my look of wisdom, but I didn't lose any of the wisdom that I currently had. So
we'll see if we can get a side by side picture of that from this
we
episode
gotta
to that
find it.
episode. Throw it on
We
social
gotta
for you
find
guys.
it. But wisdom is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment.
Yeah, and additionally, the application of said experience, knowledge, and good judgment. Plain and simple, wisdom is making the correct or at least educated decisions based on the knowledge that you have.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up, the action of it, because it's one thing to have wisdom, it's another thing to act wisely.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have all the knowledge and read all the books and have all the facts and the information, and it's another thing to act with good judgment, with a sound mind, and acting what you've thought out, not just acting. We talked about that in the definition of a man, that a man is a good man, a manly man is one who thinks out his actions and doesn't just act rashly, but actually takes the time to think through what he's doing and does it well.
Yeah, I found a quote that I think perfectly defines the difference between wisdom and knowledge.
Okay.
It goes, knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad.
That's good. That's good. That's true. Well, and I like this definition because wisdom is having knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's
and
not like
using the knowledge.
Right. So it's not like knowledge and wisdom. A lot of times people use it as, the same thing.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Like the knowledge is knowing something. The wisdom is using what you know.
Yeah.
So I love that relationship. And and again, it's just wisdom is something that we should be using all the time. A good man is a wise man.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be kind of following, if you listen to the last episode, then we're going to follow a similar type of layout in this episode. We're going to talk about some life experience for us, some historic examples, and give you some action steps towards the end. But if you didn't listen to the last episode,
make sure
you go back and listen to it, because you can actually only listen to it because we were lacking wisdom and we forgot to plug in the phone to make sure it's charged. And the video recorded about 3 minutes. So no YouTube, no video podcast for episode 2. So make sure you go back and listen to that.
It's all right, because if we're being honest, the people on the YouTube, they have,
man, I see that gray coming in right now.
This is why people think I'm old. I look old and I talk old. They were probably not super excited to look at our face again. They were probably going to start playing the video and then turn it upside down.
Yeah.
So, we did it for you guys more so than anything else. But we definitely lacked in wisdom. So it's just audio, obviously, for last week. But make sure you guys go check it out if you didn't watch that. Pause this podcast right here. Go check out that episode and then come on back. I had a thought about the last episode. Oh yeah, we're talking about life experience and stuff like that. On the previous episode, we shared moments in our life that we've been brave and we've had bravery. And then this one, I feel like we're going to share a lot more moments we've lacked wisdom versus moments that we've had wisdom. Because I bet there's a lot more lacking of it than having it. At least up until now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I have one right off the top,
Dude, go.
And it just stands out for me all the time. I love telling this story because it's just making fun of myself.
I love making fun of you too. So. Share with me, and then I'll tell it to other people.
So the story where I was lacking wisdom, if you guys haven't heard yet from the first couple of episodes, you need to go back and watch those or listen to them. But I've got twin boys. We had twins the first time around. The first time my wife and I decided to have kids, and
just right out of the bat, you're like, you know what? Who?
I didn't know what I was doing.
Just to start with 2.
I was dumb, and so
that's what their boys. That's what your boys want to hear.
What?
When you had, I was dumb. That's why I had twins.
That's not what I said.
What you meant.
I was not what I meant. They're only 6. They're not going to listen to the podcast. They don't have the attention span for that. Paw Patrol's way more exciting to them right now. But yeah, so my twins were born 10 and a half weeks early. That's a whole different story. So we had a 6-week NICU stint and things like that. But my wife went into labor at 29 and a half weeks. And her water broke, and so she went into actual active labor.
Wow.
Well, I'm a night owl. I stay up late.
Yeah.
I mean, it's late right now when we're
It's
recording this.
1 a.m.
It's almost 1 a.m. when we're recording this. So I'm a night owl. I stay up late. I come to bed. She's usually in bed before I am.
Yeah.
That was the case on this night. This night, I stupidly stayed up until like 12:30 and went to bed. And so, finally laid down in bed. About 15 minutes later, I had just fallen asleep. She wakes me up and she's like, "Hey babe, I think my water just broke." And I was like, "Okay, well, let's figure this out." I didn't know what to do. I mean, this is my first time going through this. Her first time too, obviously. But
we just sorry to interrupt, but we just assume that our wives know what's up with pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, as you guys know, my wife is pregnant right now with our first child. And I just assume she knows everything and I sometimes forget, like, she's new to this too. Like, she's never had a baby before. She has no idea what's going on.
It's almost like we think it's like the Matrix, and it's just automatically downloaded into them.
I know Kung Fu. Like, I know how to be a pregnant lady.
Show me.
Yeah, so I'm sure for your wife, she was like, wait a minute. I'm sure she was like, this isn't supposed to happen for another 10 weeks or so.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. So anyway, her water broke. We didn't quite know if that was actually what happened or not.
Right.
Lots of different things can happen with pregnancy. So she got up and she decided to call the doctor, which was a wise decision.
Yeah.
I was lacking. Fairness, I had 15 minutes of sleep. And so, not an excuse, but, so.
I'm sure she counted that.
Yeah. So we're standing in the bathroom. She's calling the doctor, waiting for the nurse to call back. Like, so she had to call the after hours line because it's the middle of the night. And so she's waiting for the nurse to call her back. And I'm like, well, babe.
No. I already know what you're going to say.
If you've got this under control, I'm going to just go lay back down.
Oh, no. What?
Yeah.
Oh,
told you I was lacking.
Gosh.
And so I said, if you got this under control.
Wow.
While you wait for the nurse to call you back, I'm going to just go lay back down.
He's still married, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, to the same wife.
Yeah.
And they had another baby.
Yeah.
So
guys,
there's hope.
You can't get much worse than this.
Wow.
But it gets worse.
Oh, no.
So I say, I'm going to go lay back down and you just let me know, kind of what happens. Come wake me up and tell me. And so she comes a few minutes later, or I couldn't sleep. I, ended up not being able to sleep. So I went back in there a few minutes later and I said, hey, what's going on? And she said, well, the nurse said we should probably get ready to go in. And I'm like, okay, that's good. We hadn't packed the hospital bag yet,
right?
Because she was waiting until she was 30 weeks. She was 2 days from that her plan of I'll pack the bag when I'm 30 weeks.
Right.
And so she just hadn't gotten to it. We hadn't done anything with it, and so she was like, well, we've got to pack the hospital bag, and I was like, well, okay, that's fine. We can get the hospital bag packed. Before we go, I'm gonna take a shower real quick. I'm going to take a shower. Her water broke. She's got bodily fluids that she's never had. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to take a shower.
You need a shower. You're the one that needs to get cleaned up. Uh-huh. Okay. Wow.
So yeah, I told you it didn't get better. Oh. So she did not kill me. I'm still here.
Julie,
she should have, but she's a saint.
The patience of a saint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So yeah, I told her I was going to take a shower, which I did. I followed through with what I was going to do. What I said I was going to do.
Gotta be a man of your word. Gotta be a man of your word. You can't.
At the very least.
You can't. If you're not going to be wise, you might as well be bold and stupid.
Yeah. And so I took my shower. We got ready to go, and then we left, and went to the hospital and had the babies. That the rest of that story will come out later. But yeah, I was definitely lacking in the wisdom that night.
That is, I don't even have to share a story anymore because your lack of wisdom
took the whole spotlight.
Was more than enough to cover for not only you and myself, but most of our watchers.
Yeah, everybody.
Your lack of wisdom covered for most of us. Wow. Yeah. And that's I hadn't heard that before. Like I knew your babies were early and all that stuff. Yeah. And
well, we had a second baby, and I got a little bit wiser going into that one. So my daughter was born on April 2nd. Yeah. That's when her birth happened. We woke up the morning of April 1st, and I rolled over to my wife and I said, if you tell me that you're going into labor, I'm not going to believe you today because it was
Right.
April Fool's Day.
Right.
She promptly went into labor minutes after I said that. Water broke again. And so
You believed her.
I believed her.
You
I
were
didn't take
like-
the shower. You know, we
You were like,
got
"Oh, let's
going.
go."
Like, she said that I ended up going into work and doing something to just kind of wrap it up before we, were out. I don't remember that. I
sounds like
I
you.
believe her. It
It
sounds like
sounds
something
like
I would
you,
do.
yeah.
You know, I probably needed to tie up a loose end or something, but I didn't like drive 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
We work like a mile away from
Right.
home. So
Wisdom, what is it? Obviously, we have the definition, and we know, quote unquote, what it is. But how do you live that? How do you live a life of wisdom? How do you gain wisdom? How do you act with wisdom? Because all those things are important. It's one thing to have it, but if you have it and you don't use it, it's useless.
it's knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Or it's another thing to not have it at all, or grow in it. And a lot of people say, well, wisdom comes with age, and to an extent, yeah, some of this stuff, experience, that happens with age. Like, no matter how, and again, and not all the times, but usually, experience comes with age, knowledge comes with learning, and good judgment comes with common sense, which, I mean, it's kind of a superpower now.
Yeah.
But putting all of that together, and how do you use that? So what do you got, Thomas? What do you got for us?
So I did some research and I really couldn't find a lot of historical events that talked about using wisdom.
Sounds about right.
I mean, that makes sense, the more you think about it. But so what I did, we talked about this in the first episode. We're both believers, So I went to the good book. I went to the Bible, and I went specifically to the book of Proverbs. This is a book. Even if you're not a Christian, the book of Proverbs really is the book of just wisdom.
Yeah.
It's got great sayings and things that you can just apply to your life and just make sense. It's that common sense in a book, that you might be missing. And so I went there. So I went and found a bunch of verses in there, and I'll just kind of read through what I've got here. I tried to, make it more practical life. Obviously, there's a lot of spiritual stuff in there, and that's totally fine. So we said from the get-go that we didn't want to try and cram that down your throat. So I'm trying to kind of balance that out so that this is more actual wisdom-related, life-applicable stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, and you're right though. How can you talk about wisdom and not talk about Proverbs?
Yeah,
and those of you guys that know the Bible and stuff, and you've read Proverbs, there's the common theme of the fool.
Yeah,
and there's been quite a bit of times when I'm reading Proverbs, I'm like, man, I am a fool. I need some wisdom, but share what you got with this.
Yeah, for sure. So the first one talks a little bit more about kids, and it says Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way he should go, even when he is old, he will not depart from it. So basically, just saying, raise your kids to know between right and wrong, teach them so that they understand the difference, and when they know, then they're not going to just completely turn their backs on that.
Yeah. And even if, I mean, and I speak that from experience. Even there was a point in my life where, I stepped away from my faith and I stepped away from my upbringing, and yet that was always in my heart and that was always in the back of my mind. And that Proverbs always came back to me, like, even when he grows old, he won't wander from it. Like he'll return to the right path, like you said, of right and wrong. Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah, and I think that we're speaking of that from a faith perspective, but like I said, even if you're not a Christian, that still applies. If you teach your kid not to rob banks, most likely they're not going to start robbing banks later in life, So I think it's just a wise situation from fatherhood, parenthood. Obviously you're doing this with your spouse or significant other, but that's one.
I'm sure you've got it on here, but Proverbs 4:6 and 7, it says, "Do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will watch over you. Wisdom is supreme. Therefore, get wisdom. Though it costs all you have, get understanding."
Yeah.
Like, that's so good. And I love the personification of wisdom as a nurturer, as a protector. Like, if you have wisdom, she'll protect you. Love her and she'll watch over you. And that's so true. Like, how many times have we been saved from catastrophe or saved from just terrible consequences by having wisdom, by making the wise choice, and we've avoided just disaster in our lives. So I love that Proverbs as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't have that one on here,
Oh,
but is definitely a good one. I love the just get wisdom. Like just cut everything else out. Just get wisdom.
And the last part is, even if it costs everything you have, get understanding, like get wisdom, like and I love that, because it's right. Like wisdom is going to help you in every area of life.
Yeah.
In everything you do, having good judgment, having knowledge, having experience, it's going to help. So at whatever cost it comes, get that, put the work in, study, hustle, stay late at work and get more knowledge, and all of that's going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one, Proverbs 31:10. An excellent wife who can find, for her worth is far above jewels. I mean, if you just listen to the beginning of this podcast, I've found that.
Your poor wife.
Yeah. Love you, baby. I feel bad for her sometimes. But
I do too.
We said in the last episode that, all men marry up.
Yeah,
we marry women out of our league.
You married way up. Now that I know that.
Unfortunately for her, she married down.
Oh, poor thing.
I don't think she would actually say that.
She wouldn't say it, but I would.
She's too nice to say it. I would too. Yeah, definitely. She's settled.
There's always a reacher and a settler. Our wives are definitely the settlers. We're reaching. We're trying. But that was a wise decision.
Yeah,
that was probably
except
the wisest.
For the night.
Yeah, not that, not at all. I would never say that was a wise decision. I'm just saying, like, for me, marrying my wife was the wisest decision I have ever made.
Yeah,
like hands down,
for sure,
hands down.
Agreed.
Up until probably to the end of my life, I don't think I'll ever make a wiser decision. Well, obviously following the Lord and giving my life to Jesus.
Yeah. But practically,
that's obvious, given one. But marrying my wife, man. I mean, everything that I learned from becoming a husband, such a great experience. It poured into me, and it turned me into a whole different man, a better man. I would hope so. I'm sure she would agree, because the man I was when we first got married he definitely lacked in wisdom.
Next one I've got on here is Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron, and one man sharpens another. I think that's exactly what we're trying to do here.
Yes.
I mean, you and I, we're going to be doing that together. We're physically close in proximity. We can walk this out and hold each other accountable with things. But that's what we're trying to pass on to others, the listeners and things like that. So
we want you guys to be sharpened by us, and we want to be sharpened by you, and we want you guys to develop community and relationships with other men that you encourage and motivate and challenge each other and grow in that. And it's funny, because when we were coming up with the podcast, that was actually a name that I had. I was like, man, iron sharpens iron, or iron on iron. But there's so many iron things out there, and it's kind of a used name. So I was like, all right, redefining manliness. I like that. I'm glad we landed on that.
Yeah. Whoever spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him. Now, Proverbs 13:24. Now, just let's pause there for a second, and don't stop listening yet, because you need to know that this is not saying to beat your children. It's
Dude,
not saying to physically abuse your children.
My dad took this passage to heart. He said, "I'm never sparing the rod. I love my son." Whap. Thank you, Dad.
But it comes together in the second half of that verse. He who loves him is diligent to discipline him. Yeah. Discipline is key when you're raising kids. To get back to that first verse we talked about, training them up in the way they should go, so that they won't depart from it when they're older. You got to do it, and you got to discipline with love. And if it's with anger or any other emotion. That is where it crosses a line.
Yeah. Well, and discipline, if we're being honest, like, discipline creates wisdom.
Yeah.
Being corrected, learning from your mistakes, all of that creates wisdom. We talked about it in the last episode when we were talking about bravery and stepping out, and being willing to fail, and being willing to learn from that failure. Yeah. That's what wisdom is. Yeah. That's where you get that knowledge and that experience is sometimes from failing. I mentioned it again. We mentioned it the last episode, that you learn a lot more from your failures than you do from your successes. So you got to be willing to fail, but get back up. Yeah. Get back up and learn something from it. If you're going to fail, you might as well learn something from it. Don't fail and learn nothing and then fail again because you're too stubborn to grasp the knowledge of something. If you keep falling off your horse, it's probably because you're not riding with a saddle. I don't know. I don't ride horses. I'm assuming that's a saying somewhere in cowboy country. But learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, I think a great analogy for like learning from your mistakes is like a dog wearing a shock collar with an invisible fence.
Yeah.
Eventually, he's going to learn the limits, and he's not going to go past that because he's tired of getting shocked.
Yeah, that's true. I need one of those for my dogs, by the way.
Yeah.
Not my dogs. My female dog. My male dog, he's fine. He never goes anywhere. My female dog, every time she's in heat, she's like, I'm out. Peace. I'm gone. And she digs, climbs, jumps, chews through the fence to get out. And I'm like, what? I mentioned huskies. They're active dogs, and they apparently it's normal. To this point, I've gotten used to like I'll come home and she's gone. I'm like, she'll be back. Or somebody will call me from the
city will bring her back.
The city will be like, hey, we got your dog again. I'm like, oh, did you get points for staying? Frequent flyer miles or whatever.
Oh man, I got a couple more here. How much better to get wisdom than gold? To get understanding is to be chosen rather than silver. Yeah. So basically saying wisdom's more valuable than anything, kind of echoing that verse that you talked about a few minutes ago. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Haughty, defined as arrogant. So if you're prideful, you're probably going to fall at some point. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned that. I don't even know. Honestly, I don't remember if I mentioned it in this episode or if it was the last episode about kind of struggling with pride. I can speak to that one from experience. My pride has definitely at points in my life led me into slips and tumbles and falls. But like I said, we learned. There's multiple iterations of this phrase, but it doesn't matter if you fall 7 times as long as you get back up 8 times.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Fail, fine, but learn something from that failure and use it and gain some wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, next we would normally dive into some action steps here to help you. Do you have anything that you want to add from, to try and top my story of, lacking, or are we just gonna leave that one alone for now?
That's it. You got it.
You got to tune in for a future episode.
I've lacked in wisdom in multiple places in my life, and I've made multiple stupid decisions, but none of them comes close to yours. You take the cake, man. You are the top dog of it. I was gonna say of idiocy in this table, but I don't even know if that's the right word. But yeah, you win. You can have that win.
Thanks.
Wear appreciate like a badge of honor.
Well, let's dive into some action steps here.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Like we said last time, we're not just here to just have fun and talk and share as fun as that is, but we want to make sure that we're challenging ourselves, that we're challenging you guys. And so think about an area in your life that you're weak or struggling in right now in terms of wisdom. Maybe that's marriage. Maybe that's fatherhood. Maybe that's your finances, your work, or your business. Write down one or more that you want to improve in terms of wisdom. And then pick one of those that you want to start with. You can't do them all at the same time.
That's so key. I tell this to, I like to... I've got a few guys in my life that I speak into, and I'm like, discipling and helping them grow. And there's one guy in particular, and I've told him multiple times. He's like, man, I want to do everything. I want to do this. I want to play this instrument, and I want to, do video. I want to do it all. Yeah. I'm like, great. Pick one thing to get started with.
Yeah.
Because when you're multitasking, you're giving 10% of your attention here and 20% of your attention there. And again, I'm not saying multitasking is good when you're doing it, whether it's for work or something. Like, there's going to be times where you're going to have to multitask. But when you're trying to fix something, when you're trying to gain wisdom in an area and trying to be better in an area, I say focus on one at a time and give it 100% of your attention. Or else you're just going to be wasting your time and your effort, and you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think that picking that one thing to start with, write down all of them that you want to grow in. That's totally fine, because if it's not written down, you're not going to take steps to move forward. But pick the one that's most urgent. Yeah. If your marriage is kind of on the rocks right now, that's probably the most urgent. If your relationship with your kids is not great, you should probably start there. finances, huge, any of these, they could all be urgent, but something is going to kind of be the key, and then the rest will kind of domino.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, and you guys probably would, okay, cool, that's great. I picked out this list, I have all this stuff, but how do I grow in wisdom? How do I get better at this? And obviously, there's multiple ways. Whether you're reading something, whether you're watching a podcast, like this one right here,
this awesome podcast.
We'll help you get there. Whether you're like you're reading a book, you're attending a class, you're reaching out to other men in your life, and you're saying, hey, I see this guy, and he's a great father. I'm gonna reach out to him and say, hey, man, help me out. Give me some pointers. Give me some insight. Look back at your mistakes. Look back at again. I harp on this because I truly do believe it. Failure is a fantastic teacher. Look back at your mistakes. Look back at where you failed and say, okay, what can I learn from that situation? How can I apply that? Do it more often. Do whatever it is that you're failing at. Keep doing it until you gain more experience and you get better at it, and you gain more knowledge, and you start putting it all together, and then you've got that wisdom to do it well. Yeah,
I think that. An example that I could kind of give of that is, being a financial coach. I come from the Dave Ramsey School of Thought. Right. So if you've never heard of Dave Ramsey, he's great. But one of the things that he said is, he lost everything at some point in his life and went broke. And he said, I decided to stop taking advice about money from broke people because I didn't want to be broke. So he said, I started to surround myself with people and start asking questions to millionaires. How did you get your money, and how did you keep it? Yeah. Because who cares if you became a millionaire if you lost all your money? Yeah. And I'm not trying to drill this in on finances, but the same principle applies somewhere else. Surround yourself with people. Ask people questions who are in that position where you want to be. Maybe you're in a rocky marriage. You want to get a successful marriage, take that step, be brave, and go start asking questions to get the wisdom and move forward and save your marriage.
My mom used to always tell me, she's like, tell me who you hang out with, then I'll tell you who you are. Yeah. And I would always say, no, Mom, I'm my own person. And then I learned that, no, you're just a reflection of the people you're around. That's great. Surround yourself with people that are where you want to be, and that can encourage you and motivate you and help you grow, and learn from them. Yeah. Learn from their mistakes. I think that's one of the cool things that I'm looking forward to being a father, that I get to teach my child from my mistakes, so they don't have to make the same mistakes as I did. Yeah. So I can take all of this knowledge, all of this experience that I have, and hand it off to them and say, here's a leg up. Yeah. Here's all this wisdom that I've gained. Now you use it and gain your own wisdom through it. Yeah. So good steps.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you got to gain the knowledge in some way. Yeah. But like we said from the very beginning of this podcast, it's not just about gaining the knowledge. You have to try to apply something that you've learned. Read that book, watch that video, or listen to that podcast, but take something out of it and say, okay, that's the thing I'm going to try. Yep. You have to start somewhere, try something, and back to the failure. If it fails, that didn't work. Go try the next thing. You can't just give up. So try something. That's the only way to gain the wisdom.
And then let us know. Yeah. Let us know if you succeeded or you failed. We'd love to again give you some insight, give you some input, and you say, hey, I tried this and I failed. What do you guys think? And maybe we have some insight. Maybe we tried the same thing and we failed as well, or maybe we tried the same thing and we succeeded. And we're like, hey, here's what we did differently, or here's what we suggest. And then we'd also love the chance just to celebrate you guys, celebrate your victories, and encourage you guys up, because as men we need to build each other up, and encourage each other and strengthen each other. So make sure you guys are sharing this on social media, leaving a comment, just letting us know where you want to grow in wisdom or how you've grown in wisdom, and all of that stuff. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, and if it's something that you're just not comfortable sharing, putting out there publicly, send us a private message. We can keep you anonymous. We'd love to still hear about that and celebrate with you.
I was gonna say we'll do the whole cool, interview. I was at the radio station. We'll figure it out somehow.
Voice disguiser. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can find us on all those social channels at Redefining Manliness podcast. Yep. And Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Yeah. The website is going to be in the show notes, so you can find all the different places, get to all those links there. But with that, as always,
be better today than you were yesterday.
See you guys.
Love y'all.